Light. I'm Sho.
And I'm Mary.
And this is Reflections of the Source, where we reflect on the living, breathing lore of Final Fantasy XIV.
How does it feel to say that out loud for our first episode?
That actually sounded pretty cool. That sounded pretty cool.
You did.
Yeah, it flowed very well.
It did. I like it.
Yeah, I liked it too.
Yeah, definitely sounds better coming from you than just sitting on a piece of paper looking at it.
Well, that's what we have to do. So, to get started with it, how did you get into MMOs? I feel we need a little bit of an introduction.
Well, that's a good idea since it is our first episode.
Mm-hmm.
How did I get into MMOs? Well, I guess you kind of have to go a little bit back. My first Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy VII.
Okay.
And I kind of got addicted to Final Fantasy from there.
Okay.
Went backwards into the series, played the other games, and then I heard about Final Fantasy XI coming out. And I got really excited. I had no idea what an MMO was at the time.
So you were just all in, you were ready to just jump right into it?
I was, at that point in time, I was like, if I saw Squaresoft on something, I bought it.
Oh, of course.
Because
everything that Squaresoft touched turned into gold.
Oh yeah, it was the Squaresoft heyday.
Oh, of course.
So I got it.
Mm-hmm.
We had to get a new computer because our computer could not handle it.
Right.
And yeah, that was my first MMO. That's where you and I met.
That's very true.
Yup.
We did meet in that MMO.
And from there, I heard that Final Fantasy XIV was going to be coming out, and I wanted to give it a try. I got into the beta.
Okay.
For
Which
1.0.
The 1.0 beta.
1.0 beta.
God
I was
bless
in
you.
it, and I did not like it.
I don't think anyone liked it at all.
I played it for all of a month, and then a friend of mine kept on playing it, and he told me about what Yoshi P was doing with A Realm Reborn.
Mm-hmm.
I managed to log into my old character right when that last day that the servers went down for 1.0.
Okay.
I was there.
Right before Meteor just wiped out everything.
Yep, I was there when it wiped out everything.
I know. That Meteor was getting closer and closer, and it was like, alright, we're cutting off the servers.
It was really cool. It
That
was
was
a really cool thing. And then after that, I got into the Final Fantasy XIV Alpha for Realm Reborn.
Alright, so the Alpha 3, was it?
No, the base Alpha.
The base? Wow.
I was in the very first one.
Okay. That was the rough cut.
A lot of things were broken.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, and as soon as I started playing it, I realized I was like, I started telling everybody. It's like, this game is going to be amazing.
Right.
You need to play it.
Right. You need to be a part of this, or else.
Pretty much,
right.
or else you're missing out.
Right.
What about you? Yeah.
Okay, similar to that, I started off playing Final Fantasy. I did not start with Final Fantasy VII. I started with Final Fantasy VI. Mm-hmm. And playing Final Fantasy VI, like you, I got freaking hooked. You get hooked on the story. You get hooked on the fighting, the battle. I mean, Kefka was crazy. And after that, I just had to keep going. But I did do a little bit of backtracking. I played other Final Fantasies. I played Chrono Trigger and Super Mario RPG. And then as soon as PlayStation came out, a couple years came by and Final Fantasy VII slapped me in the face. Like it slapped everybody in the face.
Yeah.
And that just changed the whole entire landscape for me personally. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I played 7, 9, the one time I played 9, 10, which was big, and then into 11. Mm-hmm. And that was like, I think, after I graduated, like 2003?
Yeah.
But,
man, I know.
We're not thinking about that. But I met you a little bit later, like a couple months later in Final Fantasy 11.
Yep.
And amongst that, we've moving on up to 14. 14's amazing. 14 is completely different. Yeah. And with that, I got into the alpha thinking that it was like this super WoW clone. Mm-hmm. And it kind of is a super WoW clone, but it's amazing. Now it's completely different. It holds its own and everything.
Yeah.
And now I bounce in and out. People see me in and out, It's more of an over-glorified chat program to me sometimes, but I still love the lore and I still love the story.
Oh yeah, how can you not love the story?
Oh, the story's amazing.
Oh yeah.
It's one of the best stories ever.
It really, A Realm Reborn starts out slow. Mm-hmm. But I think by the time you get to Heaven's Word, especially that transition into Heaven's Word, where you're just like, oh.
I know.
Okay.
It's a hell of a transition.
And it really gets to the point where you're like, this could be a main line Final Fantasy. Like, that's how I felt about Shadowbringers. Right. Well, and Heaven's Word as well. Word.
Well, you always felt like whenever Yoshi P did a storyline or had a storyline pushed out, I always feel like he had to live up to the Final Fantasy name. Yeah. So the fact that it does say 14 there, he has, like, every single time with every story that comes out, he feels like he has to live up to the name. Like, yes, it's an MMO, but we have to give that level of quality to the story.
Hey, he's got my trust.
Yeah, he's got mine too.
After all of this.
He's got mine too.
He pulled the game out of the fire.
He did. Yeah. He did. And then threw a meteor at it and then rebuilt it. You know what I mean?
He did.
That was ridiculous. I've seen a couple of... I didn't play the original 1.0 as much as you did. Mm-hmm. But I did play enough. I do have some recordings somewhere on my computer. I definitely need to find it. It would be nice to upload to YouTube because I'm pretty sure I haven't seen it on YouTube at the quality that I have.
Yeah.
But, it's completely different. If for the listeners out there, 1.0 was pretty garbage. It was a struggle.
It was.
Yeah, where the rocks and the plants had, like, as much graphics as the normal characters.
Yeah.
So it threw off everything.
And depending on where you started, there were really tough mobs for no reason.
Yes. Like, ridiculous.
Like, and it made no sense.
Right.
And the maps made no sense.
Nothing made any sense.
Nothing made any sense. Right. It basically, the game was like, here you go, good luck, you jerks. Mm-hmm. Good luck figuring it out.
Well, what can we do about it? It's nothing. We're here now. We're
exactly
2.0 and on.
It's
where the game is beautiful now.
It's an important part of our history. I'm glad that it happened because it has the game that we know and love right now.
Right.
So.
But let's move on. From there, we already talked about how we met. We did meet in Final Fantasy 11.
We did.
I will ask a question on there to piggyback on it. How do you feel about 11 versus 14? We are some of the oldies that can talk about both games and compare.
We are. That is a very tough question. It's hard to give a good answer to that because, I look at Final Fantasy XI through the lens of nostalgia. Mm-hmm. And since I have so many good memories and made so many lifelong friendships through Final Fantasy XI, it's very important to me. Right. So, critically, game-wise, it was awful.
Okay.
Oh, it was awful. Horrendous. Come on. It was horrendous.
It was pretty horrendous.
What did we do all day? We sat around waiting for our TP gauge to fill. Praying that we didn't miss
right.
a mob.
And mess up the skill chain.
Right. And, or you were a thief and you're waiting for your cooldown so you can sneak attack and maybe do some damage. Right. Or you're a mage where you're having to kneel down and rest and wait for your MP to come back.
So for the
So it's basically we're just sitting around waiting all day.
I was just going to say, for the listeners out there that have never played Final Fantasy XI, a lot of the battle system was tied to waiting for certain resources to refill.
Yep.
And for example, if the battle ended, your MP wasn't completely refreshed. You had to kneel down with a command and sit in place.
Yep.
And wait for your MP to fill back up.
Yep. If you just stood there, your MP just stood there.
It just stood there. It did not refresh.
Nope.
And then there was another thing known as skill chains where you could attack in succession with your partners in crime or with the people that you're fighting with. And you would do what's known as I would say it's like a baby limit break. And once you did it, somebody would do their baby limit break off of you, and it would create what's known as a skill chain, which is a bigger damage that was added to it.
Yeah, usually some varying element.
Yeah, some variant element.
Yeah.
Actually, they called it weapon skills. I'm sorry, I forgot. But
Yeah,
you would do a
skills.
weapon skill, and then the next person would do a weapon skill, and it would do what's known as a skill chain.
Yeah.
But sometimes, if you did the weapon skill, you could just miss entirely.
Yes, you could miss.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you've been sitting there building TP to do this skill chain, which takes like 30 seconds to like a minute before you could even do the weapon skill.
Yeah.
And then completely miss.
Well, it would depend because you would gain TP per hit.
Yes, exactly.
Depending on what weapon you had.
All right.
That could be anywhere from like 5 per hit or 12.
Or 12, right. Depending on the weapon size.
Depending on the weapon and the delay and all of that. Oh gosh. God.
Never mind. Actually, 14 is better.
They brought that over to 1.0.
They brought it over to 1.0?
Yeah, don't you remember?
I don't remember. I might have blocked it out of my mind.
When 1.0 started, you started out with 0 TP.
Holy crap.
Every single fight.
Yeah, I must have blocked that out of my mind. It was just too horrendous.
Yeah, and even worse was that if you weren't fighting, your TP would start dropping.
God. It would start dropping?
Oh, yeah.
That's even worse.
Oh, it was so awful.
Oh, okay. You know what? Everybody just play 14. Don't go back. You don't need to go back. You don't need to see 11.
Yeah.
Just watch it on YouTube.
TLDR, we do not need a vanilla 1.0 to come out.
No,
like WoW?
Not like
WoW
that.
Classic? No, we do not want that.
All right. Shout outs to not bringing that out. Just keep it where it is. It can be in the annals of history that is forgotten.
Yeah.
And wiped out by meteors.
100%.
100%. So we're going to move on.
Yeah.
Digital Fan Fest. The Final Fantasy Digital Fan Fest is going to be coming out soon.
Yes.
It is on May 14th and May 15th. And it's going to be streamed live from the Tokyo Garden Theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, you excited about that?
I am very excited about this.
Okay.
I am really interested to see what's going to be announced.
Okay.
And just hear the live letter and see what's going on.
And be part of the excitement?
Yeah.
Do you have a watch party?
I am, actually.
Okay.
I'm, got a couple people that are interested. We're gonna be sitting on Discord together, and we're gonna be total nerds.
You're gonna nerd out a little bit?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Oh, of course, you have to.
That's the best part.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty excited about it, too. Shout outs to my free company, that Necro Free Company. They are all ready to watch together.
Awesome.
And they're going to try and somehow drag me on so they can watch it too. And they've definitely told me on pain of death that we have to do a podcast based on the Fan Fest and what is learned. So
I guess we know what our second episode is.
That is definitely our second episode. And like I said, on pain of death, and I don't want to die.
Okay. Well,
so we had to make it happen.
In order to preserve show's life, that is going to be our second episode.
God bless. And so there's a couple of things. There's going to be a number of things discussed. One of the biggest ones on everyone's mind is going to be the jobs.
Yes.
The new job. So are you excited on hearing the new job?
Yeah, it's a new melee. It's, as a Dragoon, I'm a little upset about it. I mean, it's a really silly thing, but it was kind of nice knowing if I saw something that was maiming drop, knowing that it was automatically mine, and not having to share it with anybody was kind of nice.
Nope, you're gonna have to share now.
I know. I'm a little sad.
Right. You can't have everything to yourself.
Taking my gear.
You darn Dragoons.
Hey, I need to wear something nice while I'm tanking the floor, okay?
It's very true.
Gotta be fashionable.
You gotta be fashionable on the floor.
Absolutely.
So, I'm also pretty excited. I've been curiously watching all of Yoshi P's shirts because he does love to do that low-key dorky shirt wear where he puts something on. He's like, pay attention to the shirt. The shirt is the job.
Yeah, he has done that in the past.
He has done that many, many times.
Yeah, so what do you think it's going to be then?
I mean, it was a Grateful Dead shirt if I recall correctly, so...
Okay.
It should be, I guess, Necromancer.
I guess.
Shrug. Big shrug.
Who knows?
Probably Necromancer. Or it's, I don't know, it's probably, like the zombie I don't know. Sometimes, actually, Yoshi P... He makes you think something's going to happen. He pulls some weird name out of nowhere. Yeah. That's how Gunbreaker came out of nowhere. We're like, what?
Yeah. Well, we were all just kind of like, okay, well, we saw the Gunblade.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then he just... Gunbreaker out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But now it's an awesome class. So...
It is.
We should put full faith in Yoshi P to make a good class.
Oh, yeah. No, right. I definitely have full faith in him as far as... is the job going to be cool?
Right. He's got his greatest engineers working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the same thing happened with Astrologian. Astrologian kind of came out of left field.
Did it, though? Because there was a little bit of talk about Astrologian and Ishgard in the original Realm Reborn story.
I mean, there was...
Just a little.
There was a little bit that they mention They don't come out and say Astrologian. Mm-hmm. They say people are watching the stars. They had the observatorium in, Korthus Central Highlands.
Yeah.
And when you're in the story, they talk about the Dragon Star and all of that. But they don't really go that in depth into it. They just are like, they said that the Dragon Star is getting stronger. And
right.
It happens,
definitely got strong.
Happens when a great worm awakens and all of that.
Yeah. Aside from that, there is also going to be the new mount that is going to be released then as well. The Lunar Whale.
Yes.
Are you excited?
I am. I'm going to buy it.
You going to buy it?
I'm expecting it to be kind of expensive. I'm figuring it's going to be probably around like $35.
$35?
That's what I'm thinking. Yikes. It's an 8-seater. Come on.
It is an 8-seater. I mean, it could carry everyone everywhere.
Everyone, yeah. Just be like, get in, jerks. We're going to go raid.
Right. Or this is going to be like the ultimate map mount. So, whenever people are doing map runs and they're all lazy, it's like, all right, guys, get in.
Just get in the whale.
Just get inside the whale. Get inside the whale. For the people out there that don't know where the whale came from, it came from Final Fantasy IV. It's one of my favorite Final Fantasy games. It's more of a narrative piece to the story.
Yeah.
Where the whale actually carries them to and from the moon. I mean, lunar whale. So, and it's also hearkening back to this new story that's coming out, Endwalker. So, yeah, it's a pretty nice little low-key tie-in.
Yeah.
Of course, it's going to be obnoxiously huge.
It does seem like it's pretty big.
It's gigantic.
Did you see the footage of everybody getting into it?
No. How does that look, actually?
It looks like everybody kind of goes inside the whale.
Yeah, they go inside the whale like the mouth, right?
Yeah.
Even more obnoxious.
Well, not like in the mouth, but everybody's like alongside it.
Oh, everyone rides on the side of it?
Like alongside, but you're inside the whale. Like it doesn't actually show people on top of the whale or alongside. Like it looks like everybody just kind of like piles inside.
Piles inside? Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, in Final Fantasy IV, it was just a large, gigantic, like super spaceship. Mm-hmm. So. I mean, it's going to be obnoxious.
Oh, it's very obnoxious.
And I imagine, knowing our server, there's going to be a large row of lunar whales in some capacity, in some city-state. There's just going to be like 30 of them lined up, like a long train or something.
Of course. I am awaiting the whale stacking. That's my personal favorite.
When stacking to the moon?
On top of... Yeah, exactly. We gotta build a staircase to the moon.
Well, lunar whale staircase to the moon.
Absolutely.
To the moon! Now, so aside from that, we're going to move on to the main discussion. We're finally there.
Yes, we are. So as everyone is aware of, we recently had the 5.5 patch that happened, and it did add a new story arc.
It did.
Now, as a warning to everyone who is listening, which should be pretty obvious, but let's just make sure, we are about to drop some spoilers.
Spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning.
Spoiler.
We are going to be discussing the happenings of 5.5. So if you have not finished the story in 5.5, I suggest that you stop and you go do it because it's really cool.
Yeah, bye. For now.
Well, you can come back.
You can.
Put us on pause, come back, and, now we'll be going forward and talking about it. So, a whole bunch of stuff did happen. We had our girl Tiamat She has been freed.
She has been freed.
She's been freed. She was apparently tempered the entire time by Bahamut.
That is an actual cool story narrative.
I love that.
Very cool story narrative.
That was so cool. That was very interesting thing, which I think could be something maybe foreshadowing.
It could be some foreshadowing.
I think so.
Right.
Personally.
Do you think it's a little bit of a retcon that they did that?
No.
However, you don't think it's a retcon, all things considered?
No, I think it makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense.
We didn't really talk to her very much.
Right.
And it makes sense. It also makes sense of why she wasn't fully tempered, because she did not view Bahamut as a god. She viewed him as an equal.
As an equal, and it helped her resist his tempering.
Correct.
It's so interesting that they did it that way.
Yeah, so that was an interesting idea. So she fought with us. She was a complete badass.
She was a complete badass.
We did the dungeon whose name escapes me.
Yeah.
But it is quite possibly, I think, one of the best done dungeons.
Oh, of course. She was like going around setting fire to everything.
She was setting fire to everything. It was really cool.
Amazing. It was amazing.
Very, very well done dungeon.
And I think it was the dungeon that is just beyond Zanark. I believe it is the Amalja.
Yeah, it's the Amalja.
It was like the Amalja encampment. But I think that's their actual...
Yeah, it's kind of like
living space.
Yeah, the best way that I was describing it in my head, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, it was like the Vase Dothrak.
Yes, Vase Dothrak.
The Amalja.
That's it.
It's like their homeland.
Right. Shoutouts to Game of Thrones. Everything before season 8. Shoutouts to it.
Season 7 can kind of go away too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, the main thing that got my brain going. Was that final scene with Zenos.
The final scene with Zenos.
That final scene with Zenos. That meanwhile, in an enemy land.
Yes, okay.
Thus enters Zenos.
Actually.
So.
And Fandaniel dancing all over the place.
Being a heckin' weirdo.
Yeah, he is a heckin' weirdo.
To set the scene a little bit, you've got Zenos and Fandaniel. They're in the Garlemald Palace. Okay? They're in a room. Kind of open. There's a whole crap ton of weapons strewn about, all in the floor.
All right.
Whole bunch of different weapons, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's not, we've seen Zenos, typically he's been using katanas.
He has been using katanas.
So now we have multiple different kinds of weapons. There were great swords, there were some pole arms.
A lot of great swords, yes.
Yeah, some axes.
A couple battle axes, yeah.
Yeah, and there were all different weapons that we recognize.
Right.
There were a whole bunch. You were pretty interested in trying to figure out which ones were there.
I was pretty interested, and I did get quite the extensive list of just a couple.
Just by looking at
Just by looking at them.
Oh, wow.
I got at least, it looks like 15.
Oh.
But I'm not going to talk about all 15. I'll just give a quick rundown. And there was the Nidhogg Greatsword.
Okay.
The Ronkin Sword. Shinryu's Katana. Zervin's Spear. Ironworks Greatsword. Emerald Weapons Greatsword.
Okay.
The one that got from that one. Tsukiyomi's Axe. Ifrit's Polearm. And the Gordian Spear that all of those Fausts use.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one was particularly interesting.
Very interesting, because I don't think... Is that even available for characters to use?
I am not certain about that.
I wasn't either.
Right.
And I was thinking about it after I saw it, because I'm like, oh, look, haha, it's Faust.
Right.
As always laughing about Faust.
Right. Maybe he fought a Faust. Who knows?
He did.
He does love to challenge things.
Maybe he just stole it off of somebody's striking dummy.
That's true too.
Yeah.
A lot of striking dummies have that stupid thing, right?
Yep, maybe he did.
True.
But it seems like they're leaning towards its weapons from the nebulous adventurers.
Right.
That
I was gonna call them generic adventurers.
Adventurers. That works too.
I like nebulous though.
Nebulous adventurers that we always are expected to pull from as the Warrior of Light.
Right,
You're
right,
like,
right.
oh, Warrior of Light, go get your adventurer friends.
Right, go get your 7 friends and let's get in this thing.
Yes, our
Right.
7 friends.
Please, help us.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's what it seems like Zenos has gotten
Right.
his weapons from.
Right.
Um,
So he was just casting the resonant on himself and just beating the crap out of generic adventurers everywhere.
I guess. Yeah. Or he just got bored while we were hanging out in the first, and he just went on a killing spree?
It sounds about right. You would think that he would be taking part of this war for succession in Garlemald, but it sounds like he's just beating people up looking for the weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's got this array of weapons. Fandaniel spouts his usual cryptic shit.
Yeah, a lot of cryptic bullshit.
Right. And then Zenos walks over and he says, oh, well, there is one I would like... I do wonder about.
Right.
And he goes, and he goes behind a pillar. Mm-hmm. This cock-blocking pillar.
Yeah, it does block.
It does. Yeah. And Fandaniel says, well, not quite what I was expecting, though I will say, it does seem rather apt.
Rather apt?
Rather apt.
Who the hell says that?
Fandaniel does.
Honestly, after a bout of dancing in place.
Yes.
And spinning around.
So
Jesus.
He draws a weapon.
Uh-huh.
You hear the drawing.
Right.
And that's the end of the cutscene.
That was the end of the cutscene.
So, what did Zenos draw?
It's so many interesting ways you could go about it. If you were just listening to the sound, it was a long drawing sound.
It was
long.
It's long, and
yeah.
I switched to a couple of different jobs and was trying to listen to the different drawing sounds. It does not exist in the game.
It does not exist in the game.
It's a different draw sound.
Okay.
Do I think that means anything? Probably not.
You think it may be a red herring?
It may be.
Okay. It's definitely possible.
It's possible. But it's not the great sword sound. It's not, not anything that, at least that I could come up with. I couldn't match it to anything.
You couldn't match it to anything.
No.
I guess we could take a moment and let the listeners listen to the sound so they can make their own judgment on that.
Yep, absolutely. Here's the sound.
Yeah.
That sure is the sound of a weapon being drawn.
A long weapon, right?
I guess.
It's definitely a weapon, at least.
It's definitely a weapon. A weapon was most certainly drawn.
Right.
In that sound effect.
And now, the real question is what weapon could that be?
What could it be? Now, I do want to take a moment to say that the scientists have tried to figure this out.
Okay.
Data miners have gone into the files to see what weapon Zenos drew.
So wait, they took apart the actual scene to try and figure it out?
They took apart the scene, they cut out that cock-blocking pillar.
Wow.
Nothing.
Nothing?
He is holding nothing.
Not
He's
a thing back
just
then?
Making the motion. That's
Right.
all he's doing. He's not holding anything.
That'll teach you.
Yeah.
Oh, you damn data miners.
Just wait for the patch like everyone else.
Right. Even Zenos is waiting.
Even Zenos doesn't even know what he drew.
Zenos has no clue.
He just decided to draw it.
Right.
So yeah, what could it be?
Mm-hmm.
So I've come up with some possibilities. Mm-hmm. And I know you had some thoughts as well.
Yeah, I had a couple thoughts.
You had a couple thoughts. The first possibility that I wanted to discuss is Oathkeeper.
Okay.
Now, for people who may not have done the Paladin quests,
mm-hmm.
Oathkeeper is... I'm just going to read the little excerpt from the lore book, mm-hmm. which I think gives you a pretty good overview of it.
Okay, go for it.
Sasigan ul Sisigan gifted the sacred blade known as Oathkeeper to the Sultan Sword's founding captain, and the weapon has since been wielded as a symbol of authority by each successive captain of the order. Within the pommel of the sword is embedded the soul crystal of the order's first paladin, and it is said that the blade will ignite with a blinding brilliance when held by one whose pure spirit resonates within the gem. Now, do I think that Zenos is going to make that sword resonate? Abso-fucking-lutely not.
Okay, you don't think he's going to make it resonate?
Oh, of course not. No. But, so here's my reasoning behind it.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing is that in the Paladin quests, the sword has to basically be won in a duel, if I remember correctly.
Right, it does have to be won in a duel. That's one of the ways that you can acquire the sword.
Gotcha.
Or at least by the lore.
And we do know that Zenos does love his duels. Now, one of the main things that made me think Oathkeeper is canonically the Warrior of Light coming out of Shadowbringers is the Warrior of Darkness.
Right. And
we know that Endwalker, we've seen the Warrior of Light obviously as a paladin towards the end. For those who also may not know, Endwalker has, well, we touched on this earlier in the podcast,
right?
But Endwalker has a lot of Final Fantasy IV references. So one of the big things is that happens in Final Fantasy IV is Cecil, the main character, who is a Dark Knight.
Yes, initially he's a Dark Knight.
He goes through a trial, and he becomes a paladin.
Right.
So, I say it would be an interesting duality and kind of a throwback to Final Fantasy IV.
It's a pretty cool throwback.
If Zenos has a paladin sword.
But I guess the one thing that just trips me up is the whole, knowing the paladin storyline, you have to be a paladin to make the Oathkeeper shine. So
it doesn't necessarily have to shine.
It doesn't have to shine? You just think that he's just going to use the paladin sword just for the sake of?
He could.
Yeah.
Or will it react differently because of the resonance?
That's true. Maybe he could, in effect, fake that, I guess that glow or whatever is needed to make Oathkeeper shine. Or maybe he's going to try.
Or maybe he's going to corrupt it.
Oh, he could corrupt it. That could be an interesting take on the entire thing.
Yeah.
That could be interesting. It would also be interesting if it did go that way, how he acquired it. Like, who did he kill or defeat?
It would probably be the main NPC of the Paladin quest, because you see Oathkeeper for the first time in the 50 to 60s quests.
Right.
Because I believe the Warrior of Light, towards the end of the Paladin quests, does take a hold of Oathkeeper and make it resonate.
Right.
But I think that NPC then takes back Oathkeeper.
Yeah, he basically takes it back.
Yeah, he takes it back.
Right.
Unfortunately, I have not done the Paladin quests, but if anyone would like to correct me, no problem.
Yeah. We're always open to corrections here.
I am open to corrections and discussions.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But that was one of the first things that I thought that he could have possibly pulled. The second idea, which as far as I know, is probably the most popular idea, and that is the new melee weapon for the new job.
Okay. I mean, I feel like that's a little bit on its nose. I think it's too expected, but maybe it is.
I agree.
Yeah.
I feel like it feels a little, like you said,
expected.
It's too expected.
It's almost too I've had a number of friends say, oh yeah, well, it's just the weapon of the job that's going to be in the game. The new job. And it's just like, don't you guys like something that's a little bit more? I mean, yes, we know the new job is coming, but the Zenos is amazing. He doesn't have to have the new weapon of the new job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It just seems...
It doesn't have to be like that.
It doesn't have to be like that. It is a possibility, though.
It is.
One of the possibilities that It could be, especially if the new job is necromancer, would be that the weapon would be a scythe.
It could be a scythe.
It could be
very true.
It could be a scythe. Scythes have been used in the game by bosses.
Even aside from that, as far as scythes being used in other games, obviously it's not a farming tool that we're using to cut crops.
No.
As for botany, but there were scythes in Final Fantasy XI.
There were. Dark Knights used great swords and scythes. So...
and they had higher proficiency in scythes than they did with greatswords. They
did. Right. So I was personally kind of taken aback when Dark Knight came out for 14, and they were using greatswords.
Yeah,
that was not really the meta.
It really wasn't
in 11,
the meta.
But I knew it was a different game and such.
Right.
So there are, as far as what scythe it would be, there are a couple of ideas, because a lot of the weapons, as far as like the level cap ones that are given, I always call it artifact armor in my head.
So yeah, you mean for like the relic armor in 14?
Yeah, for when you go up the tiers, I always think of them as the AF of whatever.
Yeah, they call it so many things. There's really no solid. Some people say relic. Most people say relic.
Relic, yeah.
Some people have said artifact. You can tell that people are older.
Yes,
when they say artifact.
Back in my day, it was known as artifact
armor. It was artifact armor. It wasn't this dang fangled relic armor. But people used it. I've heard a couple people say mythic. So
okay.
But for the most part, relic seems to be the all-encompassing word.
Okay.
For everything.
All right.
Armor and weapons.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So whatever the relic weapons are, they typically are coming from 11.
They are.
It's so far so good.
So good, yeah. And it seems to be a great wellspring of weapon names to draw from.
Oh, and designs. Designs. I remember, because I don't play as much as I used to. I mainly am playing for the story at this point. Yeah. But I do have a friend who has one of the new Dragoon relics. Okay. And I saw it. I did not examine them. But I said, just without examining, I said, is that Dryzak or Mezrak? And they were like, it's Dryzak. I'm like, oh, I should have figured it was darker.
Right.
And they were like, how did you know? I'm like, it's a Final Fantasy XI spear. It's one of my favorites.
So we should just carry you around. Is that from 11? Is that from 11?
Yes.
Is that from 11?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you had me in the Four Lords freaking out because the Bayako theme was the Ruan Gardens in the background.
Oh god, that's another story for...
That's another podcast. Yeah. But, getting back to Zenos' possible weapon and possible scythes, there are two possibilities.
Okay.
And one of them kind of plays into what Fandaniel says.
Okay.
Remember, he says that not what I was expecting, but it seemed apt.
It does seem apt.
Now, one of the Final Fantasy XI weapons that are scythes, it's the relic weapon.
The first relic weapon.
The first relic weapon. It's called Apocalypse.
It is called Apocalypse, folks.
That does seem rather apt.
Right. That is very apt.
Since Fandaniel does want to destroy the world.
Right.
So it's kind of appropriate. To have Zenos wielding a scythe
called Apocalypse.
That's very fitting.
Now, what was the other weapons?
The other one, and I think this one might be a little bit more of a stretch, but the Final Fantasy XI Mythic Scythe is called Liberator.
It's a bit of a stretch, but liberating Alamigo in his own twisted way?
I don't know.
Too much?
Yeah.
Probably.
I feel like it. I mean, it may be a tongue-in-cheek sort of thing. Maybe that's why Fandaniel thought it was apt, because he's, in his little psychopathic mind, he thought it was funny.
Well, he does like sarcasm, so we couldn't put it beyond us either.
It's true.
He's a fan of sarcasm.
He is a troll.
And dancing.
Yup. Very into his dancing.
Yay! I will turn and then I will exposition. And then I will say something sarcastic.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to go and say some really clouded, shady shit.
Right.
You're not going to know what I'm saying. Right. And then I'm just going to nope away.
Yeah. And then I'm just going to gallivant away.
Yep.
With one twirl and goodbye. But, however, one or two things I wanted to mention. Mm-hmm. The first thing is we do have to remember that Fandaniel is not like the other Asians. So he is kind of aligned with Zenos in a sick and twisted way where he wants to just see everything be reduced to nothingness. At least that's how it seems.
I don't think that Zenos wants to reduce everything to nothingness. Mm-hmm. I think he doesn't care about reducing things to nothingness if it gets him to his goal.
Right.
He doesn't mind burning the world down if it gets the Warrior of Light to come out and meet him.
Yeah, so it's a lust for his best friend.
That's all he cares about. Right. He's just, he wants to continue our bromance that we have.
Bring back the bromance.
Yes. Right. That's all he wants. And he's willing to do whatever it takes to get there. He doesn't have the specific goal written down.
Destroying everything.
Like, it isn't written...
Okay, that's true.
Yeah, it isn't written in his diary, like, Dear Diary, I really fucking want to destroy the world. He does not have that.
No, he wants to bring back his friend and his enemy.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So, those are really the big sides.
The big sides?
As far as, if we're following the same pattern of drawing from Final Fantasy XI weapons as a pool, those are really the big ones.
Those are the big ones. Now, there was one of these crazy scientists. You know that these 14 scientists, they take this very serious.
And they're impressive.
They are very impressive. Interesting that we were talking about the sides. There was a scientist that basically went through the entire opening or the teaser trailer. I guess let's call it the sizzle reel for Endwalker.
Yep.
Screenshotted a very particular part of that reel showing Zenos sitting on a throne in what looks to be a scythe. Next to him.
Interesting.
So for the people that have not seen this, we will put this on the screen.
I haven't seen this either, so this is going to be interesting.
It's going to be very interesting. Now, it's very far away. It could be literally anything else, but they kind of do give the idea of him, casually sitting on the throne waiting for the Warrior of Light, and next to him what seems to be a scythe.
Interesting.
And the scientists very, very carefully put like a red circle around it. Like, look at this right here. It's that. That's the weapon. So there is that too.
Interesting.
That's out there.
Yeah, that's some more fuel to the fire.
There's more fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
We will.
What else did you think that it could be aside from Scythes or Oathkeeper?
So the other possibilities that it could be, it could be a new katana. Now,
could be a new katana?
It could be. So the other weapons there could just all be red herrings to just show that he's just been on a killing spree. He's got a whole pool of weapons to come from. As far as if it was just going to be a katana, could it be something that is a katana that's full of lore that we haven't seen in the game yet?
Yeah, it's possible, yeah.
Could it be a famous Final Fantasy katana that hasn't been in the game?
In the game.
That would probably have a very long weapon draw sound.
So you're basically saying it's Sephiroth's katana. He beat up Sephiroth and took his katana.
I don't think he beat up Sephiroth and took his katana.
Did he have an epic battle and beat up him?
I don't know.
Do you think Gilgamesh stole it from Sephiroth and then Zenos beat up Gilgamesh, which is very possible?
Oh, that's possible.
And then took Mezamune from him.
Oh, possible. I don't know. I don't know how he got it. I don't know
how he got it.
Maybe he bought it in the Mog Station.
He probably did. Maybe he got it from Rowena. She seems to collect everything.
Yeah, maybe that's where all the weapons came from. Maybe. He just went with a whole crap ton of those Mog tokens. It was like, give me one of everything.
And I need to throw them all on the ground, and I need to pick one. Yes. I may take a katana and throw it at Dancing Fandaniel.
It's kind of like pin the tail on the Fandaniel.
Right. But with katanas.
I
love it. It's a great game.
I want to play that game.
Yeah, we'll hit him eventually. But Yeah. It could be Masamune.
It could be. And I was trying to think, are there other katanas that are seeped in lore that it could be?
Now, I have always, when thinking about katanas, the one that does come to my mind is a bit of a stretch.
Okay.
I was thinking that it could be the Phoenix Blade from Final Fantasy XI. It's a hell of a stretch.
That is a hell of a stretch.
But we do know that some of the lore has kind of shifted over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have had Final Fantasy XI characters in Eorzea. We've had Shantoto. Way back in the day.
And she has no longer been found.
Well, no, she went back.
She went back?
She apparently went back.
Okay, what a crazy bitch.
But we do have Tenzin's daughter.
Right.
Yeah, she was in the Final Fantasy XI crossover event.
Right.
And at the end of that event, she did say she was going to be staying in Eorzea and she was going to be traveling.
Right.
So somewhere, she's still here.
Right, but does she have, or did she have...
Did she have the Phoenix Blade?
The Phoenix Blade with her. That's another question. We could always go back and look at that. The other issue with thinking about it being the Phoenix Blade is that they kind of reimagined Tenzin to be like an old warrior of light hundreds and hundreds of years before the current Warrior of Light.
Yeah.
So as they've reimagined it, it's kind of hard to justify that he probably had like the Phoenix Blade back then, or that it even existed.
Yeah, but
in its current form.
But then how do you explain Louisoix? Louisoix became Phoenix.
Louisoix did become Phoenix.
And now summoners can summon Phoenix.
That's very true. So, I mean, that could also happen, I guess. The one good thing about Phoenix that has always seemed to persist amongst all of the Final Fantasy games is that the Phoenix is like a force that can be imbued into very various things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Katanas. People. Jean Grey.
Jean Grey. Okay. Yeah, the Phoenix Force, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. But do you think that it could be anything else aside from these? Like any other famous katana out there?
I was trying to think of famous katanas, and I suppose that there's a whole wealth of, Japanese folklore that you could go into.
Right.
So we could possibly, they could be pulling from real life mythology.
It's very true.
As well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely very possible.
Right.
It's also possible, and this is our final thought, that it could be, it could just be a random other weapon that we just don't know about yet.
That's very true.
That hasn't been established as far as lore.
Right.
I mean, we didn't know about Zenos' red-bladed katana until Stormblood.
You mean Amane no Habakiri?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you.
Yeah, right. No problem. I hate how he broke that sword. That was such a great sword.
He broke it.
And he broke it like it was nothing.
Yeah, so I mean, there is a possibility that it could just be another legendary sword that was,
or weapon
that is in Eorzean lore that we just haven't heard of yet.
Right.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? You think it's something that we know about now?
I think it's something that's going to be impactful regardless.
Okay.
And this is coming purely from a narrative perspective.
All right.
Because if it was something that we didn't know as the viewer, why hide it from us?
Yeah, that's true.
Why cause a mystery to just have it be like, oh, well, who cares?
Right.
When you're hiding something, it's one of two things. It's either going to have some kind of impact, like it's going to be a twist.
Right.
It's going to be, something shocking. Or... and they kind of go together, or it's something we've already seen before, something that you're going to recognize, something that's going to have an emotional impact. When you see it.
I don't think... That's
why, like, when you see a bad guy that's wearing a mask...
Right.
It's typically because the character already knows them.
Right. And, which is funny, like, ties back into something that we've kind of figured out just before Stormblood. we pretty much figured out who Ida was.
Yes, we did. Oh my god, that was awesome.
That was because of the mask. And we stepped back and we were thinking, like, why is she wearing a mask? There's a specific reason.
Yes.
Why her face was hidden the entire time.
The entire time.
Right. It kind of a little baby retcon, but they did it beautifully.
They did it beautifully. And actually, as a really fun side step, if you look in the original lore book, the very first one, and you look up the Scions,
right,
Ida is the only one whose age is not listed.
And they did that on purpose.
They did.
And no one noticed this.
No one noticed it. Right. So it's so cool when they put these little seeds everywhere, right, which is why I really think that it's something, like I said, it's either something really seeped in Eorzean lore that we already know, or it's going to be a big twist and a big reveal. Or they're just going to reveal it like in the next couple days for FanFest. Who knows? They might. Because they are going to do probably the final trailer for the large trailer for Endwalker.
This is the trailer that makes people want to play.
This is the big trailer. Yeah. Come play our game.
All right, they're going to slap you right on the forehead with it.
Yep.
Yep.
So, given all of these possibilities, what do you think it is?
It's so interesting. I really thinking about everything and thinking about. Like, I come at it from a much different angle. Like, I always try to put my mind inside of Yoshi P in a way, or inside of the developers and say, for a narrative, what would I do? What would I choose right now? And a lot of it, as much as I hate it, it probably draws me closer to Apocalypse, like a Scythe and Apocalypse.
Yeah.
I really hate how they made him, Zenos, so cool with a katana. Because, honestly, personally, I don't see him using any other weapon other than a katana. You know what I mean? It just seems weird for me to see him use something else. But that's my own personal hang-up. So, to really give it a serious thought, even aside from the scientists who found, like, taking screenshots of everything, I really do think it's closer to Apocalypse.
Okay.
And that is going to be a Scythe. And he may not have a job. He may not be like Necromancer.
Yeah.
But it may just ironically be the weapon type that Necromancer may use. But I think he is going to have a Scythe, and I think it is probably going to be Apocalypse being apt to what he's all about in order to draw out the Warrior of Light. Now, another thing that I do find interesting, and another thing that a lot of people don't know because they probably didn't read the short stories, there are a bunch of short stories that talk about Zenos and his upbringing when he was younger. He was 14 and he learned how to fight and everything. And he learned how to fight, if I recall correctly, it was from a Ilsabardian swordsman.
Okay.
Who basically taught him that unyielding blade technique. You remember the unyielding blade attack that he does every time you fought him?
Yeah.
In Storm's Blood, and he would do the attack and he would knock you back, and you suck at fighting. Yeah, it's his cheater move.
Yeah.
He learned that unyielding blade technique from that swordsman back when he was young. The swordsman was actually trying to kill Zenos' father. And he basically held the entire family hostage in order to try and kill, you know what I mean? But he basically got trained, and the swordsman actually tried to kill Zenos. And of course, Zenos basically wrecked him with the blade technique that he taught him, you know what I mean? So he basically killed him, then basically just left after killing him. Yeah. You know what I mean? In killing the man that basically taught him the technique, it kind of broke Zenos. Because Zenos thought that this was like the greatest swordsman ever. You know, this was something that he was looking up to. And that's what kind of got him into that mindset of wanting to challenge people and find someone that's worthy of him. You know, and having this literal lust for the Warrior of Light, because the Warrior of Light turned out to be the person he was looking for the entire time.
Yeah.
Now, with all that said, knowing that in his childhood, he basically was broken, this is how Zenos has this mindset of literally throwing away the world. The world does not matter to him. Mm-hmm. Only thing that matters to him is the glory of battle, and is the glory of battle with that one person, which we now know is the Warrior of Light. So that's why when I think about it, this whole entire idea of apocalypse, being an apt weapon.
Yeah.
Or it could be another weapon, katana or otherwise, that has that same type of trait with apocalypse. You know what I mean? It could be like a katana that's just, it has the same properties, or at least the same idea as apocalypse, but it's a katana, or it's a battle axe, or it's something else.
Yeah.
But we do know that he, not only is he proficient with swords, if you recall correctly, back then, before he picked up Amana no Habakiri, he was using a basic sword. He was just using a sword.
Yeah, well, he still had his little, rotor...
Yeah, he had that little spinny thing.
The little lazy Susan of katanas that he has on his belt.
The lazy Susan? Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so you can just spin it and be like, this is the one I'm using today.
This is the one I'm using for today. Yeah. Jesus Christ. But yeah, he still had it, but he was using a sword, so he's very proficient in all weapons. Mm-hmm. He basically can pick up a weapon and be amazing with it. So it doesn't matter. But it's possibly a scythe. It would be interesting to see how he's going to wield the scythe. I think everyone wants it to be a scythe, but no one's thinking about how he's going to wave it around and attack with it and everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting thought.
It's definitely an interesting thought.
Yeah, just watching Zenos spin around.
Van Daniel spinning with the scythe.
That's why he was spinning. He was showing him how to use the scythe.
He was showing him how to use the scythe.
That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I tend to lean towards agreeing with you. Mm-hmm. It makes the most sense.
It does make the most sense.
Thematically.
You're right.
It fits with Endwalker.
It does.
It fits with Zenos, like you said, as a whole. I always thought of Zenos as the bored, petulant child. He's the he's the kind of guy who's really good at fighting.
Right.
So he's never been challenged before.
Right.
So he's just like, yeah, all right, I'm really good at killing. Kind of like the kid who's really, really smart, who doesn't study because it's boring.
Right.
Because they understood it the first time the teacher taught them.
Right.
So they don't really put in very much effort. The Warrior of Light was the first time that he had to actually put in effort, and he was bested. And he was like, now he's like, oh my god, something to do.
Right, to do.
He's just been fucking bored his whole life.
Right, it's very true. I mean, it was also kind of funny because you saw him also kind of crack. He went completely outside of what he would have done normally as far as fighting. Basically enslaved Shinryu to try and use his power against the Warrior of Light, and was bested anyways.
I don't want to talk about Shinryu. He's such a fucking wasted...
He is a wasted
wasted lore.
Wasted lore. That's okay.
Lore. All right, that's another time. That's another time. That's another time. But it just makes me so mad. Keeping that in mind and seeing him, I could see him getting bored with katanas.
Okay, he could be.
He could be bored. He could be like, oh yeah, here's a weapon that I've never used before. I've never seen.
Right. So
it's another kind of idea of conquest.
Right? It's true. He did that with the sword, moving on to katanas.
Yeah. Right. So it could be. He could have just been interested. He's like, yeah, I want to try this. I've never fought anybody with it. And Van Daniel, knowing the name of the sword, of the scythe, he's like, oh, haha, that's funny.
Right.
You made a funny.
That's very apt.
Right. Because he's a psycho. That kind of fits narratively. As cool as I would think that it, with the juxtaposition of having Zenos use Oathkeeper, I think that would be so neat. That's my That's my tinfoil hat one
Right.
that I don't think is going to happen,
Right.
but would make me so happy if it did.
Is he going to be spinning it in the Susan to try and activate the Oathkeeper?
Oh yeah, maybe like a centrifuge.
Yeah,
like he's just trying to spin of his like gross aura out of it to try to make it glow.
Right.
Does that work that way?
It probably works that way.
I don't think so.
Now, what is interesting is if it is a scythe, I think he will discard that.
He probably will.
He probably will get rid of the storm and the swell.
Yeah.
So we probably won't see those also cool katanas anymore.
Probably not.
Right. So that's unfortunate.
That is unfortunate, but then at the same time, it makes sense if we're going to be fighting him again to have a completely different playstyle from what he did the last time.
And moveset. But I'm sure he'll still have the unyielding blade.
Oh yeah, he'll still have something of that effect.
Right.
But it'll probably be different.
Right. Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it fits.
It does fit.
Fits.
Or maybe. We don't know.
We don't know.
We'll see.
So, listeners, what do you guys think? Do you agree with us? Do you think it's one of the other ones that we mentioned?
Right.
Do you think that it's maybe something that we haven't mentioned?
Right. Or is he using a completely different weapon entirely? Yeah.
Maybe he's using ribbons.
He probably is using ribbons. Or maybe he's using the dancer weapon.
Yeah, maybe a chakrams.
Chakrams, yeah.
Oh, I would love to see Zenos dancing with that dump truck ass.
Yeah, that big booty.
In that big booty.
Spin that thing.
Just wearing the little dancer outfit.
Honestly.
That'd be beautiful.
It would probably be amazing.
I need someone to make fan art of that.
Alright, get on it, fan artist. We want to see Zenos with his dump truck butt spinning in circles.
Absolutely.
Somebody's going to do
with some pretty chakrams.
That's right.
That's what I want. Yeah, definitely let us know. You can, leave a comment in this section.
Yeah.
What else can they do?
Well, I mean, they can leave a comment. Hopefully we can get this up on Anchor. If we do put it on Anchor, they can use the messaging. You can send us a voice message if we get it on Anchor. And we can play the message and respond back to it in real time.
I like that.
Yeah,
that
it's
would
a pretty
be fun.
good idea. And we'll put it on YouTube for sure, so they can message right down in the YouTube comment section.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we can definitely have it there, and then we can respond on the next episode, which is probably going to be after FanFest, because I want to live. I don't want my free company to kill me. So
yeah, and it seems like I would probably have to do a lot of paperwork if you were to be killed by your free company.
There would be a lot of paperwork.
Paperwork.
Yeah. We don't care for this.
Yeah, the cats would probably start chomping on you or something.
No. We'll pass on that.
We don't want that.
We'll pass on it. But yeah, that's it. That was episode 1. We're done.
We're done?
Yeah, that's it.
That's
all
everything?
we have to talk about. That's everything.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
So any final predictions that you would like to throw out before we go into FanFest?
Before we go into FanFest, it's going to be Necromancer. Necromancer is probably going to be a cool but interesting job. Mm. It's probably going to start, from level 70?
Yeah.
Or level 80, probably. No, probably from level 70, because they're a jerk and they want to make us do 20 levels up. I think Zenos is just going to sit off to the side while Garlemald burns. I think everyone's expecting that, but it's to be expected. And as far as the weapon, I think it's still Apocalypse. Okay. Do you have any predictions at all?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say that the new jobs are going to start at level 50.
Level 50?
Of course, that's how they've been before.
All right.
They all start at 50. Dancer started at 50.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's very true. I guess I missed that. I forgot all about it.
Dancer and Gunbreaker start at 50.
Except for Blue Mage started at 1.
Blue Mage doesn't technically count.
Why are you going to do me on Blue Mage like
this? I would love to not do you like this on Blue Mage, but Blue Mage
doesn't
count.
Blue Mage is the greatest.
If it was up to me, Blue Mage would count.
Right, honestly.
But
I know.
But unfortunately, Blue Mage doesn't count.
That's all right. Now, also interesting.
Yeah.
There has been, or at least from a couple of my friends that have speculated that the new job could be Beastmaster.
So that is one of the ones that is my Hail Mary.
That's the Hail Mary is Beastmaster?
Is Beastmaster.
Okay.
But I don't think it's Beastmaster that we know.
Right.
So again, for people who did not play Final Fantasy XI, Beastmaster was a pet job where you tamed different pets and basically Pokemon battled.
Yeah, you basically took your new pet and you threw it at something else.
Yes, and watched it die.
Right.
I don't think it would be like that.
You don't think it would be like that?
No.
How would it be then?
It would kind of be like, what's the general guy that you fight all the time?
The general guy?
In Yulmore.
Oh, in Yulmore?
Yeah, who's trying...
Ranjit?
There we go, thank you.
Okay, you're thinking about Ranjit, yeah.
Ranjit.
Yeah. With his crazy snake guy.
With his crazy snake guy, but he changed stances as he fought.
That's true. He did change stance. He merged with snake guy.
He merged with his snake. Yeah. So that would be how I would think Beastmaster would work.
Interesting.
Beastmaster changing stances,
merging with their pets.
Merging with their pets, quote unquote, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Now, here's the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Beastmasters could equip scythes in Final Fantasy XI.
They could.
Yep.
And I don't think they could use Apocalypse.
No, they could not use Apocalypse.
Okay, they couldn't use Apocalypse.
No.
Though. They can use scythes.
They can use scythes.
They're somewhat proficient with scythes in Final Fantasy XI. So
yeah.
Somewhat.
Yeah, well, they mainly used one-handed axes, but they could use scythes.
They could use scythes. Very, very true.
So it's possible.
Right, right.
Like I said, that's my Hail Mary. That's the
Hail Mary?
If I wanted to put money on it, it would make me a lot of money, but I don't have any money, so...
Shoutouts to Beastmasters. Also, another little baby tidbit that people may not know. Back when Final Fantasy XI Final Fantasy XIV was about to be restarted, Beastmaster was actually one of the jobs that they considered as a starter class.
Interesting.
They considered it to be a starter class, but they figured that the idea implementing it would be too complicated. So they actually went with Arcanist/Summoner / Scholar.
Scholar, yeah.
Right. So they went with that idea. They had Beastmaster for a very, very small amount of time, and they were like, "Yeah, we can't do it. Let's figure out how we can bring summonings into this." And then hence they brought the carbuncle and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor Totaro, she cannot use carbuncles at all.
She can. The carbuncle just wants nothing to do with her.
Yeah. Ran away.
Ran right away.
So, did you have anything else to talk about?
Not that I can think of. I think we touched on everything.
We did. We hit up everything.
I'm excited.
Yeah, same here.
Excited to see what's in store. This 5.5 story really ended on a cliffhanger for me.
It really did.
Yeah, we're going to definitely have to go into it a little bit more in another episode.
Right. Yeah, have like a 5.5 like exclusive.
Yeah, probably.
And break it down.
Before the next story comes out. I'd really like to go into
yeah, we could
all
go about
of that. I've got some interesting theories.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess that's a wrap then. That's for us.
That's episode 1.
That is episode 1. Can our listeners find you anywhere on any social medias? Anything you want to plug?
I have one social media, and that's Twitter. It's Retro Show, RETROSHO. If you see the Kermit, you know it's me. Yeah. And I also have YouTube, but I don't know how to read off that long line, so I may just put the link in the video.
Okay.
That links to my channel.
Yeah, but if they just search for show on YouTube...
I'm starting to move up the algorithm. They're probably not going to see me if they type in show. There's a lot of other shows.
Okay.
But I'm starting to move up there, so eventually, if I hit like 1,000 subs, I can have my own, name.
Okay.
That I can actually read without like trailing off for like 50 years.
Well, what's the channel picture if they do search for you?
Oh yeah, it's also Darth Kermit.
There we go.
Yeah, so if you see the Darth Kermit, you know it's me.
Alright, so Darth Kermit and show is the actual show. All others are imposters.
Yeah, they all are imposters.
Damn it.
Yeah.
And then for me, I do stream regularly on Twitch. So you can go, that's twitch.tv/Maricam.
See, I would love to do that. I would love to do that. Sorry.
Someday you will.
Eventually.
Someday you will.
One day.
And so that's twitch.tv/Mericam. That's MERICAM.
Mm-hmm.
And I stream Sundays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays.
Jesus, long schedule for you.
Long schedule,
Goodness.
but it's fun.
Well, check her out. She's
Yeah,
really good.
I am currently on Sundays. I am doing a Road to Endwalker.
Oh.
So I've been doing New Game Plus. We just got to Heavensward. So if you would like any lore recap with the story, come on by on Sundays.
Oh, check her out on Sundays.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can take part in this long road that she's going on.
I'm just glad to be done with A Realm Reborn, to be completely honest
the
with you.
The longest road.
Oh my gosh.
It was dragging on, wouldn't you say?
Ha.
Ha. There you go.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. But that's a wrap. Until next time, Cho, thank you so much for this. This
Not
was
a
pleasure.
You're welcome.
We had a wonderful time.
Yeah, right.
I hope our listeners have as much fun listening as we did recording this.
Right. And thank you all to listening. If you make it to the end, we greatly appreciate it. And that was Reflections of the Source. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Peace.